Have you ever been in a moment so raw, so heavy, that you actually whispered to yourself, I can't do this anymore? Maybe it was 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling with your chest caving in from something that didn't go the way you planned. Maybe it was in the middle of a job you hated, with a smile on your face and a scream in your soul. Maybe you were surrounded by people but felt completely alone. We all hit that place, some quietly, some publicly, some with tears, others with stone cold silence. And when it hits you, it hurts, it grips, it claws, it sits in your gut like it owns you. That's where most people stop. They freeze, they fold, they tell themselves a story. This is my new reality. This is permanent. But what if that story isn't true? What if the pain isn't permanent? What if what you're feeling right now, this weight, this pressure, this ache, isn't a prison but a process? You see, pain has a voice, but it's not always yelling, stop. Sometimes it's whispering, grow. And if you ignore that voice, if you shut it down, if you numb it, if you distract yourself, you miss the very thing that could have built you. Let me tell you something real, something nobody said to you growing up. Pain doesn't mean you're broken. Pain means you're being built, not destroyed, designed. But not everyone will come out of it better. Some stay bitter, some shrink, some put on masks and pretend they're fine for the rest of their lives. You're here. That already tells me something. You're not like them. And if you're willing to stay with me, to really sit with this, you're going to find out something life-changing. Pain is temporary, but who you become because of it, that's permanent. Let's begin. Pain is one of the most misunderstood experiences we go through as human beings. We act like it's the enemy, something to avoid, something to silence. But pain, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological, is not out to destroy you. It's not malicious. It's not even personal. It's a signal, a messenger, a form of communication your body, your mind, and your soul are trying to have with you. Most people hear the signal and panic. That's natural. Pain makes you stop. It demands your attention, but stopping isn't the problem. It's what we decide in that pause that matters. Because if you're not careful, you'll start to attach meaning to the pain that was never really there. You'll start to believe that this pain means you're weak, that it means you're not built for this, that it means you need to quit. Let's break that down right now. Pain is not weakness. Pain is information. If you touch a hot stove and your hand burns, that pain isn't a punishment, it's protection. It's telling you, remove your hand or you'll get hurt worse. That message is meant to serve you, not to shame you. But emotional pain, that's trickier because it doesn't come with obvious blisters or bleeding. It comes with silence. It comes at night. It comes in self-doubt and sleeplessness and shame. You don't see the wound, but you feel it. And because we can't always explain it, we start to believe the lie that it's permanent, that it defines us, that it's who we are now. But here's the truth. Pain is not who you are. Pain is what you're experiencing. There's a massive difference. You can be strong and still hurt. You can be capable and still cry. You can be focused and still feel lost. These things are not contradictions. They're part of the process. And pain isn't just about something being wrong. Sometimes pain shows up when things are going right. Because growth hurts too. Think about it. If you've ever worked out hard after a long break, you know the soreness that hits you the next day. That pain doesn't mean you failed. That pain means you're breaking down the muscle so it can rebuild stronger, denser, more capable. The discomfort is a sign that you pushed beyond where you were before. Now apply that to your life. The conversation that wrecked you, the job you lost, the relationship that shattered, the betrayal that made you question your worth. Those weren't signs that you're not enough. They were moments of internal pressure, tearing down parts of you that could no longer hold the weight of where you're going. Pain is often your greatest indicator that something is shifting, not necessarily breaking, but evolving. And I know that's hard to accept, because in the middle of it, when your heart is in your throat, when you're pushing through days that feel like concrete, when you're questioning everything about yourself, you don't want to hear, this is growth. You want it to stop. But let me ask you something. If pain was just a punishment, why does it so often precede greatness? Why is it that the most grounded, powerful, impactful people you know, the ones you truly admire, are the ones who've been through something? They've known loss. They've faced fear. They've sat with grief. And they came through it not with fewer scars, but with deeper strength. Pain didn't break them. It refined them. And it can refine you too if you let it. But here's where it gets serious. You have to be willing to feel it. Most people won't. Most people rush to escape. They run to distractions. They numb themselves with noise, with substances, with performance, with pretending. They put on a face and hope no one sees the war going on inside. But avoiding pain doesn't eliminate it. It buries it. And anything buried alive doesn't die. It festers. You cannot heal what you refuse to face. And you cannot grow through what you constantly try to escape. Pain is not something to be bypassed. It's something to be moved through. And you don't need to go through it all at once. You just need to be brave enough to take the next step, to sit in the discomfort just long enough to hear what it's trying to tell you. And when you do that, when you stop resisting and start listening, you realize something powerful. You're not falling apart. You're being rebuilt, brick by brick, day by day. Pain brings things to the surface that you didn't even know were there. Old beliefs, past wounds, hidden strength. That's the irony of pain. It feels like it's stripping you down, but really it's revealing what was always inside of you. The parts of you that can't be bought, that can't be faked, that can't be broken. Pain isn't easy. It was never meant to be, but it is essential, because without pain, there is no growth. Without struggle, there is no strength. Without fire, there is no forging. So the next time you feel it creeping in, that tightness in your chest, that lump in your throat, that pressure in your mind, don't run, don't numb, don't shrink. Get still. Breathe. And remind yourself, this is not the end. This is not who I am. This is the process of becoming. Because pain is not permanent. But who you become through it, that's the part that lasts. There's a moment that happens in every painful experience. It doesn't come right at the start, not when the hit first lands, not when the betrayal shows up, not when the doors close or the bottom falls out. It comes after the noise dies down, after the shock fades, after the adrenaline is gone. And now, it's just you in the silence. And that's when it creeps in, the lie, the most dangerous one. It whispers, this is it. This is how it's gonna be now. It doesn't scream. It doesn't shout. It just settles in quietly, slowly, convincingly. This pain will never end. And if you've ever believed that, even for a moment, you know how convincing it is. Because pain has a way of shrinking your entire world down to the size of a pinhole. You can't see the future. You can't remember who you were before. You can't imagine anything getting better. It feels like you're stuck in a loop, like life is playing some cruel joke, and you've forgotten the punchline. That's how powerful the mind is when it's overwhelmed by hurt. It stops processing time like it used to. It freezes. One bad day turns into a bad week, then a bad month, then a bad identity. You start to internalize it. This isn't just something you're going through. It becomes something you believe you are. You're no longer just heartbroken. You're broken. You're no longer just lost. You're a failure. You're no longer just in pain. You're powerless. That's the trap. That's the lie. Pain makes you forget that every storm ends, that every dark night eventually gives way to light, that what you're feeling now is a moment, not a life sentence. But here's the thing, your brain is wired for survival, not clarity. It doesn't care if what it's feeding you is true or not. It cares if you're safe. So when something hurts, your brain builds walls, emotional ones, mental ones. It locks everything down. It convinces you that if you just stay right where you are, stuck, guarded, numb, you won't get hurt again. And that's how we get trapped, not by the pain itself, but by the story we build around it. I'll never recover from this. I'm too far gone. This is who I am now. There's no point in trying anymore. Sound familiar? These thoughts don't show up with sirens and flashing lights. They slide in like facts. Logical, rational, reasonable. But they're lies, powerful ones, and they rob you of your ability to move, to hope, to imagine that there's anything on the other side of this. But I want to challenge that right now, not with cliches, not with feel-good nonsense, with truth. The truth is, pain lies, especially when you're in the middle of it. And it's not because you're weak, it's because pain distorts your vision. You can't trust what you see when everything hurts. That's not weakness, that's biology. So here's the deal. You can't always feel your way out of pain, but you can walk your way out step by step, day by day. Even if those steps are slow, even if they're messy, even if some days all you do is breathe, that's enough. Because healing doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes healing looks like not quitting. You know what else pain doesn't tell you? It doesn't tell you about who you're becoming in the process. It doesn't tell you how much grit you're developing or how your capacity is quietly expanding. It doesn't tell you that there's a version of you waiting on the other side of this that's wiser, deeper, more powerful than you've ever been. Because pain doesn't know your future. You do. Or at least you can. You just can't build it while clinging to the belief that this will never end. Let me give you something real to hold on to. Think back to a time you thought you'd never make it through. A heartbreak, a loss, a betrayal, a disappointment. It might have knocked the wind out of you. It might have shattered you, but you're still here. You didn't just survive. You grew, even if it was silent, even if no one noticed. You did that. That's evidence. That's proof. So the next time your mind starts telling you this is forever, that there's no point, that it'll never change, I want you to remember that your pain is loud, but it's not true. It speaks with urgency, but it doesn't speak with clarity. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is challenge it. But not with toxic positivity, not with fake smiles, but with truth, with the refusal to let this moment define your entire life. Say to yourself, this is a chapter, not the whole story. This is a feeling, not a fact. This is a hard season, not a final destination. And no, this won't be easy. There will be days when all of this sounds like garbage. When your body is tired and your heart is heavy and you don't want to get up. But that's okay. That's part of it. You don't need to feel powerful every day. You just need to remember that pain is not a prophecy. It's not your identity. It's a moment in motion. So don't get stuck in a moment that was only meant to pass. Because pain, no matter how sharp, no matter how deep, no matter how long it lingers, will end. And when it does, you're going to look back on this moment and say something you never thought you would. I'm still here. I made it through. And I'm better for it. So keep going. Even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, because this is not the end. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. That's the default. That's the instinct. Don't feel it. Don't face it. Just distract yourself. Numb it. Outrun it. Fill the space with noise, with work, with people, with anything that keeps you from having to sit with what actually hurts. But here's the hard truth. Everything you're avoiding, everything that scares you, everything that aches, that's where your power is buried. See, pain doesn't show up without purpose. It doesn't come into your life just to break you. Pain is revealing something. It's uncovering, unpacking, stripping away everything false, everything that no longer fits. And yeah, it's brutal. It's uncomfortable. It feels like hell. But if you stay with it, if you face it, you start to see what most people miss. Pain is a gift, a brutal, unwrapped, bleeding gift, but a gift nonetheless. Because nothing reveals who you really are like pain, not success, not comfort, not applause. When everything is easy, you don't ask the hard questions. You don't dig deep. You don't grow. But pain demands it. It forces you to ask, who am I without this relationship? Who am I without the job, the title, the praise, the plan? Who am I when everything I thought I was supposed to be falls apart? That's when you find the real answer. Not the pretty one, the true one. And here's what's wild. You don't just discover your strength during pain. You discover your values. You discover what actually matters. When everything gets stripped away, when the fake stuff doesn't hold anymore, what's left is real, the raw stuff, the stuff you can build your life on. But most people never get there, because getting to that truth requires staying in the fire long enough to see what survives it. And yes, that fire burns. It burns away comfort. It burns away illusions. It burns away the identity you built on shaky ground. But it also burns away fear and ego and dependency and that voice that told you that you're not enough. You want to know what's on the other side of pain. Clarity, conviction, confidence, not the loud, fake kind, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing exactly who you are because you've been to war with yourself and lived to tell about it. Think about it like this. A sword isn't forged in a quiet room with soft music and a cup of tea. It's forged in fire. It's beaten and shaped again and again, tempered with heat and cold and friction. And what comes out of that process is something dangerous, something powerful, something unbreakable. You are the same. Pain is your forge. And if you let it shape you, if you let it teach you, you become someone the world can't bend. Not because you've avoided pain, but because you've faced it and come out the other side. It's easy to admire people who've been through hell and made it out. But don't just admire them, understand them. Their strength didn't come from comfort. It came from their decision to stand in the fire and listen to what it had to say. You want courage, sit with pain. You want wisdom, walk through suffering with your eyes open. You want peace, stop running. Face the thing you're afraid of feeling. Because everything you're chasing out there, success, purpose, love, meaning, it all gets clearer once you've gone through pain and stop pretending it's not happening. You learn to stop begging for the easy road. You stop asking why it hurts, and you start asking a better question. What is this pain trying to teach me? Because it's always teaching you something. It teaches you boundaries, what you'll never allow again. It teaches you truth, what was real and what was never meant to stay. It teaches you gratitude, not for the suffering itself, but for the strength it uncovered in you. And maybe most of all, pain teaches you compassion. Because once you've hurt, really hurt, you'll never look at someone else's pain the same way. You'll stop judging. You'll start listening. You'll stop giving surface level advice and start sitting with people in their storms. Not to fix them, but to be with them. That's the kind of person pain creates. If you let it, someone who's strong without being hard. Someone who's grounded without being closed. Someone who knows how to show up, not because they read it in a book, but because they've lived it. So yeah, pain is a gift, but it's the kind of gift that no one asks for. It comes wrapped in silence and struggle and sleepless nights. But if you have the courage to unwrap it, what you find inside is you, the real you, not the version of you that performs for approval, not the one that plays small to make others comfortable, not the one that needs external validation to feel worthy. The version of you that's raw and honest and undeniably alive. And that version, that's who you were always meant to be. So stop asking for the pain to go away. Ask for the strength to walk through it. Ask for the wisdom to learn from it. Ask for the fire to use it. Because pain may be the storm, but you are the thunder that comes after. There comes a point when you start to wonder what it's all for. The pain, the struggle, the setbacks, the weight that keeps pressing on your chest when you're just trying to breathe through the day. You ask yourself, why? What's the point of this? And most people never get a clear answer. They get stuck there, caught in the loop of pain, with no exit and no explanation. But the truth is, the answer doesn't come before the pain. It comes through it. And that's what most people never realize. Pain and purpose aren't opposites. They are connected, closely, deeply. The hardest seasons of your life aren't distractions from your purpose. they're often the birthplace of it. The pain you've gone through, it's carving something into you, a message, a calling, a mission. And the more intense the pain, the deeper the carve. That's why people who have suffered deeply often carry the most profound purpose. Not because they asked for it, but because they earned it. Nobody finds purpose in the easy seasons. Nobody builds a life of meaning from comfort. You don't grow when everything's going your way. You grow when everything is falling apart and you choose to keep showing up anyway. That choice, that's where purpose begins. Not in your title, not in your paycheck, not in some grand vision board. It starts in the dark, in the moments you keep moving when everything inside you wants to quit. Pain makes you ask the hard questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What now? That's the doorway. That's where purpose enters. Because once you've been broken open, you're finally open enough to receive what life is really asking of you. Not just what you want from the world, but what the world might need from you. And sometimes the very thing you thought would destroy you is the thing that shapes your mission. People who've lost someone to illness often become healers. People who've battled addiction often become counselors. People who've known abandonment often become the most loyal, grounded souls in the room. That's not an accident. That's not coincidence. That's purpose being born from pain. But here's the thing no one tells you. Purpose doesn't remove the pain. It redeems it. It gives it context, meaning, direction. It takes what hurt you and turns it into something useful, not just for you, but for someone else. And that's where your story becomes powerful. When it stops being about just surviving and starts being about serving. Because someone out there needs the strength you found in your darkest hour. Someone needs to know it's possible to go through what you've gone through and still breathe, still walk, still live, still hope. And that's your job now. Not to pretend the pain never happened, not to erase it, but to use it, to let it shape your purpose, to let it fuel the way you show up in the world. But this only works if you stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for a perfect plan. Stop waiting for the scars to fade. Stop waiting until it feels easy or clear or obvious. Purpose doesn't show up fully formed. It shows up as a whisper, a pull, a sense that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this than suffering. And that's when you have to decide, am I going to let this pain make me bitter, or am I going to let it make me better? Because that's the real choice. People don't become powerful by avoiding pain. They become powerful by facing it and deciding that it will not go to waste. Every tear, every loss, every failure, every hour you spent questioning your worth, every night you stayed up thinking it would never get better, all of it, it meant something. It still means something, but only if you decide to do something with it. And no, it won't be a straight line. Purpose doesn't come with a map, but it does come with a compass, and that compass is pain. It points you toward what matters. It shows you what you care about, what breaks your heart, what ignites your fire, what makes you stand up when no one else will. Follow that. Follow the things that make your chest burn and your hands shake. That's your direction. That's your fight. That's your purpose trying to reach you through the wreckage. Don't ignore it, because your pain, it's part of your path. It's not the whole story, but it's a chapter you can't skip. And when you finally realize that your purpose didn't show up in spite of your pain, but because of it, that's when you become unstoppable. So next time the weight comes, when the silence feels too loud, when you start to wonder if this is all pointless, remember this. Your purpose isn't on the other side of pain. It's inside it, waiting, shaping, calling. All you have to do is stop running, turn around, and listen. Because sometimes the thing that broke you is the very thing that will build someone else. And that is power. There's something that no one tells you about pain. Something you only learn when you've been through the kind that cracks you open. It's this: pain doesn't just end, it transforms. And what comes after it is never what you expect. because we go through pain thinking survival is the finish line, that if we can just make it through the breakup, the betrayal, the loss, the failure, then everything will go back to normal. But it doesn't. It never does, because you don't go back. You're not the same person on the other side. Something shifts, something gets rewired. And if you've really been through it, if you've sat with the pain, faced it, walked through it, then you already know what comes after is a different kind of strength. Not louder, not harder, deeper. You carry yourself differently. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you know now what you didn't know before. You can take the hit. You can fall apart and come back. You can lose and rebuild. You can hurt and still stand up. And there's a confidence in that. A quiet, kind. It's not about ego. It's about truth. You've lived through what some people haven't even dared to face yet, and no one can take that from you. That's what comes after the pain. Truth. You start seeing things for what they really are. People, priorities, patterns. You stop chasing what doesn't feed your soul. You stop entertaining what drains you. You stop shrinking to fit into places that were never meant for you. Because pain has already stripped you down. You don't have the energy to pretend anymore. You're done performing. You're done explaining your worth. You're done with the noise. There's clarity in that, the kind you only earn by walking through fire. And it doesn't mean everything gets easy. It doesn't mean you'll never hurt again. But now, when pain comes, you don't flinch the same way. You recognize it. You've been here before. You know how to sit with it. You know how to breathe through it. You know how to wait it out. And more than anything, you know that it ends. There's something wildly powerful about having nothing to prove anymore. After pain, you stop trying to convince people of your value. You start living in alignment with it. Quiet, solid, focused. You become someone people can feel before you speak. And let's talk about gratitude, because that's another thing that comes after pain. You start noticing things you used to take for granted. A deep breath, a good meal, a real laugh, someone who shows up, a moment of peace. After pain, nothing simple is ever small again. You learn to say thank you, not just when things are good, but when they're real. Because you've learned that life can change in a second. And now you don't waste time on things that don't matter. You pour your energy into people who see you. You protect your peace like your life depends on it, because you've lived through what happens when you don't. You love deeper, not because you need someone to complete you, but because you know how rare and sacred real connection is. That's what comes after pain. Not perfection, not constant joy, but presence. You start showing up fully, without needing to edit yourself for approval. You start honoring your boundaries. You start telling the truth. First to yourself, then to everyone else. You stop tolerating what your past self would have accepted just to keep the peace. Because now you know the peace you protect internally is the only peace that matters. And maybe the most important thing that comes after pain is this: resilience. But not the hustle version. Not the grind yourself into the ground kind. I'm talking about the kind of resilience that knows when to rest, that knows when to walk away, that knows the difference between giving up and knowing when enough is enough. The kind of resilience that doesn't need applause to keep going. Because after pain, you don't live for the crowd anymore. You live for alignment. You live for the version of yourself you fought like hell to become. And yes, you'll still have bad days. Of course you will. But now you have tools. Now you have memory. Now you have evidence. Proof that you survived worse. Proof that you're not as fragile as the world once made you believe. There's an elegance in that. A quiet grace. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You breathe differently. Because now you know who you are. You know what you've built from brokenness. You know what you've made out of ruin. You know that pain didn't destroy you, it revealed you. And if you're still in it, if the pain hasn't passed yet, know this: what's waiting for you on the other side is worth it. Not because it's easy, not because it's perfect, but because it's yours. Your clarity, your voice, your strength, your purpose, your power. So keep going, even if it's slow, even if your legs are shaking, even if all you've got left is one breath at a time. Because something comes after this, something real, something honest, something unshakable. And when you get there, you won't need anyone to tell you you made it. You'll know because you'll feel it in your bones. You'll hear it in your silence. You'll see it in the mirror. And for the first time in a long time, you'll say to yourself, not out loud, not for the world, just quietly, with full conviction, I'm still here, and I am more than I was before. Here's what I want you to remember. Pain is not the enemy. It never was. It's not here to break you. It's here to build you, to sharpen you, to wake you up to the parts of yourself you didn't even know were sleeping. The parts that only rise when everything else falls apart. You weren't meant to be comfortable all the time. You weren't born to play it safe, hide your scars, and live a small life. You were built for resilience, for fire, for purpose. And pain is the process that carves that into you. You've survived things that would have taken other people out. Don't you dare minimize that. Don't you dare look at your reflection and only see what was broken. Look again. You're still here. And that means something. And if you're in the thick of it now, if everything hurts and you're just trying to get through the next minute, hear me clearly, this will not last. I'm not saying that to motivate you. I'm saying it because it's true. Pain ends. The fog lifts, the weight lessens, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, with every breath you choose not to quit. This too shall pass. Not as a cliche, but as a truth you will live to see. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to feel lost. But don't confuse that with being done. You're not done. You're just in the middle. And what's on the other side of this? Your strength, your purpose, your peace. It's worth every step you take right now, even if those steps are slow and trembling. So choose the fight. Choose to stay in it, even when your voice shakes. Choose to show up for your own life like it matters, because it does. Choose to become someone who uses their pain instead of letting it use them. You've already done the hardest part. You've survived. Now it's time to live like you know why. Not in spite of the pain, because of it. Now go. Walk out of this moment with your head high. Not because everything is fixed, but because you're still fighting, and that means you're still becoming, and what you're becoming is unstoppable.